Hi, I'm Dr. Atul Gupta. I'm the Medical Director of Infection Prevention here at Silver Cross Hospital, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the current situation with COVID. Over the last several weeks, we've unfortunately seen a large increase in the number of COVID cases statewide, and the positivity percentage has gone up as well. That's unfortunately translated into a large increase in our hospitalizations here at Silver Cross. We had been running in the 20s or 30s just a few weeks ago, and now we're unfortunately up in the 70s as far as number of admitted COVID patients. One thing I would like to note, though, is that the vast majority of the patients who are admitted with COVID are not vaccinated. We are seeing very few patients who have been vaccinated getting admitted with COVID, and the majority of those patients are not getting very sick from COVID, even if they're in the hospital. We have several patients on the ventilator in the ICUs, and almost exclusively those are unvaccinated patients. So the good news that we can still share is that vaccines do seem to be very effective still against hospitalization, severe COVID, and death. The most important message I think we can take from what's happening with COVID right now is the importance of getting that vaccine. Certainly for people who are unvaccinated, your best protection is getting the 2 shots of an mRNA vaccine or the 1 shot of the Johnson & Johnson. Getting the booster is very important. It's currently approved for anyone who's received their vaccination 6 months after the Pfizer or the Moderna, or 2 months after the Johnson & Johnson. I strongly recommend that. We are seeing amongst our hospitalized patients who are vaccinated, it's almost exclusively people who have not gotten the booster if they're more than that time period out from their initial vaccine. But certainly, even beyond that, the most important thing people can do is to encourage their family and friends who are not vaccinated to go ahead and get that, because it's become more and more clear that COVID is not going away, and we still need that protection. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about this new Omicron variant of COVID that came out of South Africa. One thing I would like to say before we talk about Omicron is that there's only been 1 case identified in Illinois. The vast majority of COVID that we're seeing right now is the Delta variant, and it is very severe, and so we still need to be very cautious about that. The data on Omicron is very preliminary right now. So far, we're seeing a few trends, though, that we can comment on. One, it seems to be much more contagious than any other variant of COVID we've had in the past, and that includes Delta, which is already extremely contagious. The early data is encouraging in one sense, that it does seem to be causing less severe disease, but that's something we'll need to follow a little bit more to see if that remains true as it spreads more widely. Some data about the effectiveness of vaccines in previous infection against Omicron has come out, which is, again, very early data. And it seems to indicate that the protection that we get from vaccines and previous infection is not as good as we would get with previous versions of COVID. But the data from Pfizer, at least so far, indicates that with that booster, you do get very high levels of protection still, even against Omicron, which, again, it all comes back to the message of vaccination and boosters to protect from severe disease. With the holidays coming up, we do need to still be very cautious, especially if we have family members who are not vaccinated, and especially if we have other family members who are at high risk. My advice is to avoid large gatherings with unvaccinated family members, and if at all possible, to do testing prior to family gatherings. And of course, anybody who has any symptoms whatsoever should avoid getting together with anybody until they know for sure that they are negative for COVID. I know that this last 18 months has been very hard for everyone out there with social distancing and with a lot of the activities that we used to do before no longer being available like they were before. But unfortunately, this virus is still around. But if we all take the appropriate steps and be very careful, we can make it through this for sure. The good news is if you are planning a Christmas gathering, there's still time to get a booster. There's still time to start a vaccine series to get some protection prior to that gathering. and again, to avoid serious illness and hospitalization from COVID.